So this right here is my RTI ramp, and that stands for Ramp Travel Index. It's a 20-degree ramp, and the idea is I put the driver's side front tire here on the ramp and drive up as far as I can until the left rear tire starts to just lift off the ground. And that's the point of maximum articulation of the suspension. I do some math on how far up the ramp that it was able to climb and come up with a score. And I'll do that 2 times with this vehicle. Once with the stabilizer bar connected, and because this is a Rubicon, I can disconnect it as well and try a second time and see how much higher I can climb with the Rubicon stabilizer bar disconnected. These are just wood covers. I'll take one off here. This is pretty much a cheese grater. That's why I have the wood on, so people don't cut themselves. Now, if I've done this right, you saw this tire spin a little bit. The idea is to get it so where this tire can be lifted off the ground with one hand. So, yeah, I'm right there at the tipping point. The idea here is to line up the middle of the tire with the ramp and mark the spot right here that corresponds to the hub, perpendicular to the ramp itself. And then this represents the distance up the ramp that the truck was able to climb. I'm going to mark it with tape and then do it again, but this time with the stabilizer bar disconnected. You might see this slightly different than I do because you're not looking at it square, because otherwise my head would block the shot. It's probably doing that anyway. Let's measure this, because this is something to keep an eye on the next time we climb up the ramp. I'm going to put the tape on it right now. 5.5 inches right now between bottom edge of the flare and approximately the outer edge of the tire. It'll be a little harder to square it up exactly the same next time, but it'll ballpark it pretty well. So take note of the stabilizer bar angle in this connected situation. It's roughly parallel with the frame. And you can see the bump stop hasn't touched anything. It's not easy getting back in. Wow, that's quite a difference. I think the top of the Jeep might not even be in the frame anymore. Oh, it still is. I got it right. I haven't done this before in this location, so I'm still working out the camera angles. The wheel was spinning, but I'm not convinced I got far enough up. Yeah, perfect. You can see I can lift the tire off the ground with just a couple of fingers. I can put my fingers underneath there. You can see how much further it crawled up the ramp. See how much more the bar has been allowed to flex? Because basically it's not flexing at all. It's disconnected and it's just moving without any resistance at all. Time to make another measurement. Oops. But before I get started, check out up there. Remember that was 5.5 inches? This is tucked way inside now, so it's a little harder to make the measurement the same way, but it's about an inch, maybe less. So again, when I do this, it's not going to look square to you because you're not squared up with the wheel like I am. Again, I don't want to block your view too bad. So I'm going to call it there and put my piece of tape right about got to get it to stick. Don't curl up, tape. Right about there. So roughly 20.5 inches further up the ramp just by disconnecting the bar. But that's not the RTI measurement. What I have to do is measure the height from here to the ground in both cases, divide that by the sine of 20 degrees, gets into trigonometry, and that'll tell me the distance from here to the ground. Now, since my ramp doesn't come to a point, I can't do that with a tape measure, which is why I'm doing the sine business. Then I take that number and I divide it into the wheelbase of this vehicle, because the wheelbase is important. So I've made my measurements and done the math. So this point here is 21.5 inches above the ground. To get the distance from here to the beginning of the ramp, which doesn't exist because it's got a square edge, I divide by the sine of 20 and I get 62.9 inches of climb. Divide that into the wheelbase, which is 137.3, and you get 0.458. That's customarily multiplied by 1,000, so you get 458 as the score when the stabilizer bar is connected, which isn't shabby at all for a pickup truck. Now let's go to the top. Here we have 28.5 inches of rise, which is 7 inches more than with the stabilizer bar connected. That translates to 83.3 inches of climb. Divided into the wheelbase, that's 0.607, or a score of 607 with the Gladiator Rubicon stabilizer bar disconnected. So 458 to 607, that's about 150 points of improvement, which is amazing for just pushing a button. And that is why you want a Rubicon if you're into rock crawling. Well, that's it. I'm done. But there's one more thing that could be potentially interesting. Am I going to be able to climb into this thing now it's this high up? Well, the ramp might be helping me. Anyway, until next time, thanks for watching and be sure to click subscribe. I'm going to back this thing off the ramp now. Take care.